The Trencher SMG was added to Infinite Warfare earlier this month, and I really wanted to make a video on it because it has a lot of interesting stats that differentiate it from the other SMGs and really lock it into a certain type of playstyle that you should employ with this weapon. So yeah, I wanted to make a video on these stats, showing how I would use it, break down the variants, and then also break down my class and why I use it in the way I do. Starting off with the rate of fire, this gun will fire at 625 RPM. This is the lowest rate of fire in class if you don't compare it to the RPR's Evo assault rifle mode. I'm not going to be comparing it to that weapon at all in this video, just because that's a very weird weapon. It's very modular. It has a lot of advantages and disadvantages that go into it. So this video, I'm just going to be comparing it to the base version of the SMGs. And yes, so 625 is the lowest RPM for the SMG class. Next up, this gun will kill in 3 to 6 shots. This is the second only SMG with a 3-hit kill range, and its 3-hit kill range drastically outclasses the other one. It'll kill for 3 hits up to 13 meters, or 15.6 meters if you do have advanced rifling, which I will be suggesting in this video. The HVR, which is the only other SMG that can kill in 3 hits, is only at 5 meters for its 3-hit range, and then about 6 meters for advanced rifling. So as you can see, it doubles and almost triples it if it has advanced rifling. It's very good. This gun definitely wants to be used at a medium range. Its 4-hit kill range is 19.5 meters or 23.4 meters with advanced rifling. Once again, this is very good. Most of the SMGs start off at 4 hits and then drop off drastically around the 10 meter range, I would say. So this one being a 4-hit up to 23.4 meters is very high. Definitely outclasses all the SMGs at that range. It'll fall to a lot of the assault rifles, but just comparing it to the SMGs, this gun outclasses all of them at range. Next, it'll kill in 5 shots up to 29.2 meters or 35 meters with advanced rifling, and this is the first range that headshots are useful. It'll drop it down to a 4-hit kill if you're past 23.4 meters and you get a headshot. And then if you get a headshot in its 6-shot kill range, so past 35 meters if you're using advanced rifling, headshots are also useful in that range because headshots deal 10% extra damage on this gun, like most guns in Infinite Warfare, and it'll bump it up that 1 extra point it needs to go from a 6-shot to a 5-shot or a 5-shot to a 4-shot. So overall, headshots are not very useful with this gun except in niche circumstances, and even at those long ranges, I wouldn't aim for headshots. I'd rather just hit the body shots consistently and not worry about having to aim for the head at such a high range for an SMG. So as you can see, this gun outclasses all the SMGs drastically on the range component, being a 5-hit up to 35 meters with advanced rifling when most of them are dropped off to a 6 or 7 shot at that range. In addition to having more damage at range, it also has a longer ADS aim assist range at 38 meters versus 35.6 meters, which is what all the other SMGs have. So as you that aim assist might help a little bit. It doesn't really matter too much, but it is a little weird, quirky stat that this weapon has to have, that it has more aim assist range than the others when you are aimed on sight. This weapon has a slower ADS movement speed than the other SMGs. It feels a lot closer to an assault rifle when you aim down sights and move with it, and that makes sense. And that's going to be why I'm suggesting stock on this weapon, just so you can be able to move quickly when you ADS. I really don't like being stuck. I feel like I'm in quicksand when I ADS and try to strafe with this gun. If you don't really mind this, you could get away without stock, but I would definitely recommend using stock on this weapon because it has a slower base ADS movement speed than the other submachine guns do. The Trencher has significantly larger hip spread than the other SMGs. If you don't know how hip spread works, it's basically a circle. That's where anywhere that your bullets can go within that circle is how your hip spread works. And this gun having a larger hip spread means it's less accurate, and you can fit the bullets have a wider range that they can go in the circle. So obviously it's going to be less accurate at hip firing. It's another thing that kind of makes it seem like it's meant to be used at medium range. In addition to having a wider hip spread, it also has a slightly longer ADS time at 250 milliseconds versus 230 milliseconds. 230 milliseconds is what a lot of the other SMGs have in this game. Not too big of a difference, but it's a slight drawback and kind of also shows that they want this gun to be less useful up close compared to the other SMGs. And then finally, this weapon has less idle sway than the other SMGs. Once again, another stat that shows it wants to be used at medium range and not up close. All those stats definitely paint a picture that they want this gun to be less effective at close compared to the other SMGs that are designed for that. Lower fire rate, longer range, higher damage, and then a lot of less mobility compared to the other SMGs. This is definitely a medium range SMG, and that's how we're going to build the loadout for this weapon. But before we get into the class breakdown, I want to break down some of the variants and say which ones I think are most helpful and then really not as helpful. Starting off with the common variant, this one just has stability, which reduces the recoil on the weapon. This weapon's recoil isn't too bad as it is. I think it's fine. So this weapon, I'll take this variant if it's the only one you have, but it's not the best variant by far for this weapon. It's probably the second best, actually. But yeah, so I would rather have something else, but if I have this one, sure, it'll work. It'll get the job done. Next, we have the rare variant. This one gets kills while airborne, grant a small bonus to your payload meter. It's not too useful of a perk. It's not something that's really sought after. It's helpful, sure, but not the best thing in the world. And then Creeper, increased movement speed while crouched. This is literally one of the most worthless weapon perks I've ever seen. So this weapon isn't something I would want at all. It's probably the second worst to the worst Trencher variant. Next we have the legendary variant. This one gets 25 player kill streak, earns a deatomizer strike. This is a good weapon perk. Not really that great. I'd rather have something that gives me free reloads, but sure, I'll take nukes if I can get them. And then reduced idle sway while aiming down sights. This is a great weapon perk for this weapon because it already has less idle sway than the other SMGs, and it wants to be used at medium range, so just cutting down that idle sway as much as possible will help a lot. This is probably the best Trencher variant, in my opinion, just because of the idle sway, and then the first perk is nukes. Sure, they're like uncommon, but it definitely is nice to go for nukes sometimes. And then finally we have the epic version. This one gets a grenade launcher as an underbarrel attachment for the first perk, and then hip spread, which stacks with laser, reduced hip spread, which stacks with laser sight. This variant is a waste of time in my opinion. Not only does the grenade launcher suck, but reduced hip spread, sure, it has higher hip spread than the other SMGs, but you don't want to be using this weapon up close that much anyways. You don't really want to be in hip fire battles versus the other SMGs, so I wouldn't recommend using this epic variant. I think it's generally just a waste of time, and I'd put it at the worst, and then I'd put the rare variant at the second worst, and then the common variant at the second best, and then the legendary variant at the best. So yeah, I'd go epic, rare, common, legendary as far as stack ranking these. Well, it's in reverse order, but I would go legendary, common, rare, epic as far as ranking these variants goes. With this weapon, I use a very basic class loadout. My attachments are advanced rifling, stock, and quick draw. Stock and quick draw are obvious. You want to aim down sights a bit faster and then strafe a bit faster. Since both of these perks or stats are hit on this weapon, like meaning they're worse than the other SMGs, I'll definitely go for a better strafe speed and better ADS speed. And then obviously advanced rifling, since this gun already has the highest range of the SMG class, we're going to put on advanced rifling to get even more range out of it. Since it's a percent modifier, the higher range this gun will be affected more from the advanced rifling, since there's more to start off with. For our secondary, we're going to put the Hornet on just because it's a great up-close weapon and it can get us out of some bad situations if we do get stuck in some close range. I'm going to use a plasma grenade as my lethal equipment and a jammer grenade as my tactical equipment. I'm going to use Ghost. I think the first perk really depends on the game mode you're playing. If you're playing an objective game mode, then you could use something like Blast Shield. If you're playing Team Deathmatch or Kill Confirmed, I'd definitely recommend using Ghost just because kills are the most important thing in that game mode. And then I guess you could use Dexterity if you wanted to reload and switch weapons faster. Really not that much of an advantage to me. I'd rather just plan my fights accordingly and then reload when it's safe. So yeah, I don't really use Dexterity much. Perk 1 I really think depends a lot on game mode. Perk 2 I'm going to run Scavenger. That's just a given. I love having extra ammo. I love not running out of ammo. There's no reason for me not to run Scavenger, I would say, unless you were playing a bunch of people that were running like Tacticals, and then I guess you could use Tactical Resist. I don't really value hardline. I don't really care about getting my streaks faster. I'll just get them when I get them. For perk 3, I don't really think there's anything that really benefits this weapon too much. I guess you could run Gung Ho, but this isn't a gun I really want to be running and gunning with. This is a much more of a defensive SMG. As far as payload goes, I don't think there's really one that stands out as like a necessity with this weapon. You could just use whatever payload and rig that you like using. It's not like an LMG where you really would prefer the man-at-arms trait. I don't think it really matters. With this gun, you could use whatever you want. That's going to do it for my review of the Trencher. I really wanted to be as concise as possible while also giving a lot of important details with why I play the way I do with this weapon. Obviously, you want to be at medium range, control your engagements to where you're limiting your close range engagements. If you do have them, pull out the Hornet, get the kills that way. It's not that good up close. It's better at medium range. So yeah, that's obvious with this weapon just because of how the weapon stats pan out. Please comment down below what you thought of this review and what you thought of this weapon. Like if you have a different class loadout, comment that down below. I'd love to talk about it. Thanks for watching.